Good evening, everyone. Today, for me at least, it becomes the first day I recognize the death of my friend Russell, codename Texas Bentley. I haven't, I mean, everyone in the message I've seen, comments I've seen, had taken this for granted in the early stages, in the early developments of this episode. But while I was in contact with his wife Ludmila, and I could see she had some hope, even in the plea she made directly to uh, Mr. Putin, the president of the Russian Federation. She was still asking for his return alive, and the body whereabouts was still unknown. There were a lot of rumors, a lot of news, uh, but today she published uh, a post on her Telegram with a summary of the events of that day, which I shall read now. A white Niva stolen from the Avtobase was found blown up and burned out at a brick factory in the Petrovsky district of Donetsk, almost at the front line. Inside were Russell's remains. The body was incinerated. Collected fragments were taken from Donetsk for DNA analysis. Two separate criminal cases, the disappearance and the murder case, were combined into a single case and taken under the control of the main military investigative authority of the Investigative Committee of the Russian Federation due to the magnitude of the public outcry. Donetsk tried to hush it up, but Moscow did not allow it. He was kidnapped by the soldiers of the 5th Tank Brigade, the commander of which took the blame of his subordinates. Russell's wife took Russell's destroyed phone from the Niva at the Avtobase on April 8th before it was stolen. The phone was restored on April 10th and transferred to the investigative committee on April 11th. There were no photos, videos, or outgoing calls made after 16:15 p.m. on April 8th, found in the phone's memory. Had it been the case, the phone would have been kept as evidence. So this ends the report of the facts that are known. For me, it's still hard to grasp that reality. And I've do you for some of you that know Russell and have seen a lot of pictures of him, he usually wore these hats and several caps, and one of them he used to have a star, an old one. He suspected that this one was still from the early 20th century. This one I try to show you. This one. He took it from his cap and gave it to me in the moment we said goodbye in a dining room in the Donetsk checkpoint, near the Donetsk checkpoint, when we parted, when I was there. Other several things that I that I have with me, several objects and a lot of pictures, remind me of Russell. And but I don't know why I was saying this. I'm just looking at the subjects, and it's still hard to grasp this reality, as I said. Anyway, uh, I think it's time. It's this. Okay, see this as kind of my eulogy. I know this is not a ceremony, but when the first time I knew about Russell, it was in back in 2014, uh, end of 2014, beginning of 2015, and this it's struck my attention. It was hard time in Portugal. We were living under the IMF dictate, the second one, and I had to change my way of living from teaching to factory worker at the time, and times were hard. And then I remember coming home and flipping on the YouTube and trying to know more about what was going on in Ukraine. I always got interested on the subject. And then I saw that video of the guy from communist from Texas that went there to fight along with the militia. And of course, this is not a very common story, but I think Russell really gave uh, a unique example of courage and of someone who fights really for its ideals with little regard for his own life. Uh, I have to confess, it crossed my mind to do the same, but maybe I've talked this several times with Russell. I discussed this with him. I had that opportunity. I had my new. I have a kid already. It was she was already 5 year old, and I had a newborn, and it came across to me as not very wise thing to do, having two very young kids to raise. And but I don't like to be blamed. I don't mind. Sorry, I don't mind if someone blames me for not having the guts to have done it. But those were the reasons. I really don't care what everyone thinks anyway. Uh, I wanted to go there. I wanted to go and meet this man and visit this man and talk to this man. I remember exchanging a few messages with him on Facebook. The time he still had Facebook, and he immediately answered and told information about what was going on. This was none of this was on mainstream media. Only a few things about the Maidan Square and the through the optics of the West. But the war in the Donbass was really a marginal thing, and you would really have to dig for it. Of course, at that time, there were a lot of channels still permitted on normal social media before being censored. One of them was Russell Bentley, the other was South Front, and several other people involved, for example, involved in the militias, in the Donbass militias, posting random videos on YouTube and even on Facebook with combat. That's when I heard of Motorola. That's when I heard of Givi. That's when I've heard of Zaharchenko and many others. And so this was a very special period where I realized that the forefront of the fight against the empire, if you allow me this expression, was taking place there. And so I kept following Russell, but I didn't have any. I mean, I couldn't afford going pretty much to the country next to Portugal, which is Spain. let alone going to Russia or any other country to try and see this reality up close. And the only opportunity I had to do that was last year. Was the first, not the only, but the first opportunity I had was last year. Fortunately, things got better in my life. The job improved, the pay improved, and I finally had met the conditions to go myself. And I've started this podcast in the meantime in early 2021, also a fruit of things improving in my personal life. And therefore I immediately tried to contact Russell for interview, which he accepted, of course, and we got about 3 or 4 interviews. And I went there immediately. I mean, I've told this before. The thing is, when I expressed my thoughts of curiosity about seeing the Donetsk and seeing the place, he immediately invited me and helped me with everything. And when I landed in Moscow, I sent him a message saying that I was in Moscow, and he asked me if my word was still up. He was always asking this, and I told him if I gave it, it's given. So my word, of course, it's still up. So, and he arranged to buy the tickets because I only told him I had to do one thing before going to Donetsk, and that was non-negotiable. I told him I had to go to Volgograd, former Stalingrad, and I had to see the memorials of the fallen soldiers and the remains of that great battle that are still preserved there, and of course pay my respect. And then I could go to Donetsk. And so he had found a bus direct from Volgograd to Donetsk, and he let me. He called me while I was in Moscow, saying, "Hey, I got this. There is this bus goes on this day. It's a long trip. It's a bit tiring. It's not very comfortable, but it's direct to Donetsk, and then I go pick you up at the station." Because my original plan was to go by train, comfortably by train to Rostov on Don, and then from there maybe getting a taxi to Donetsk, more comfortable. And Russell got me this, which saves me a lot of time, actually. And he bought me the ticket because I couldn't buy it myself because I couldn't use electronic money to buy online in Russia. I was carrying only cash with me. Next time that problem is solved, by the way. And so, yeah, I sent him the picture of my passport. He bought the ticket, sent me the receipt. I could pick up the ticket at the station. And when I got to Volgograd, that's what I did. Saw the place, went where I had to go, and then went to the bus station and got the ticket. And on my way to Donetsk, I went. It was a very long trip. I arrived there 5:30 in the morning, and the bus arrived 1.5 hours early, and this happened for a reason. There is a border check at the checkpoint. There is a passport check, and the bus was packed full, right? And I was sitting there, and this was 5 in the morning, and in the bus comes this one guard with the AK, and he asks everyone to lift their passports, their documents, and everyone did. They held their passports like this, and the guy was just passing his eyes through all the documents, and I was sitting on the last row, exactly the last row in the middle, with my legs on the corridor, on the bus corridor. And so, when the guard came near me, and he just moved his head. I mean, he didn't even notice me, right? At least that was the feeling I had. He didn't even notice me, and he went off the bus again, and the bus just went. So we weren't pulled out of the bus. We weren't like searched or anything. That was it, and there I was, Donetsk district, Donetsk Oblast, and on to Donetsk city. So the bus arrived early. It was still night. And I messaged Russell. He didn't answer right away because I think he was asleep. But then some minutes after he answered, and he said, "Let me just get ready, and I'll be there soon on the station to pick you up." So I was waiting there for him, and I told him, "No, no, no rush. You can pick me up at 7 o'clock. I don't mind waiting here." I was listening to the bombings for the first time in my life, to the explosions so far. And I was observing the people and absorbing the place. It was my first time in such place. And then, yeah, just like half an hour, maybe 40 minutes later, comes this white Lada Niva with Russell. I couldn't barely believe it. And immediately, I mean, he helped me. I left my mouse full. He helped me. He wanted. I only had a backpack and a small trolley, a very the small ones. I was traveling light. I mean, the lightest as I could. I mean, I had to take jackets for cold and that shit. And Russell wanted to carry my trolley, and I said no, 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 no. But he insisted, and he carried the trolley, put it on the back, and we drove to his house. I got videos. I made video of that moment. Uh, and once we arrived there, we chatted for a while, and immediately it felt like I was among people I already knew for long time. It's like getting in a home of your body. Like you go spend some time with your body, spend some nights there at your body's place. That's exactly how it felt, and that's exactly how I felt that Russell felt. Also, his wife was very kind, and she speaks very good English, which is not very common over there. Uh, and yeah, and they gave me. They are living in this apartment which belonged to a comrade of him, a comrade in arms of him, a brother in arms that died in combat. His name was Alfonso, and so they were staying at his place. They borrowed Alfonso's wife lent the place to them because it was safer than being in Petrovsky at their home, which was too close to the front line. I think all of this is known, but I mean, as you all know, I do not do this for out of greed, out of views. So I tend to screw up the dynamic of the video. It tends to be a little bit boring for people who search for immediate information and this kind of fast video. Yeah, and I took the bed of Alfonso's kid. And that was I had to take a nap. I mean, and I woke up about 11 o'clock, and on we went to see Donetsk to visit places. Yeah, and so and we were like and joking and talking all the time. It really felt like we had connection, and I had felt this before when I was making live streams with him, because not only in the live stream but after I disconnected the live stream, we often talked for. I remember talking with him like over an hour after the live stream had ended. About several issues, and we got a lot of ground in common, a lot of common ground. And yeah, so yeah, it's hard. It's hard to it's hard to lose a friend. Although, of course, Russell was not. I have some friends that I know for many years. I don't know Russell personally for many years, but it felt like I did. And he often expressed the same. And one of the I think the strongest words he told me, last time we spoke, about a couple of weeks before his disappearance, was you are my friend, and you are one of those friends that I trust my life with. And this, of course, this means a lot. I remember having, for example, I remember having a discussion one night with him over there. We were both already very drunk. I had bought a bottle of booze, a local booze called Medronho, something that people over there don't know about, and plus another bottle of vodka that we bought in Donetsk. And then we were having this discussion. Then he asked me this philosophical question: that if you could go back to 1933 and had the chance to eliminate Hitler, to save all the millions from killed in the Second World War, but you would lose your life, would you do it? And it just, the way this question came was not like in the middle of a conversation about this subject or about things like this. It was just, we had silence. We were talking about many other things, different things, and suddenly this question came and hit me. And I told him, I don't know, Russell. I haven't thought about that. I don't know. It's complicated. I don't know if I even should think about going to the past, changing anything. Maybe it could be for the worst. And then he goes like, wrong answer. He was testing my morals. But I told him, look, I was honest with him. As I mean, I could be singing here the best song, saying, singing the best song in the way that saying the best words. Like, of course I would be and do this and that, but I don't really know. All I can guarantee you is that if I give you my word, it will be worth it. It will be worth something. Like, you can take my word if I give it to you. If I feel that I'm in no position to give you my word, I will tell you so. Simple as that. Yeah, but I remember having that in other discussions. I mean, about idols and famous celebrities that we knew about. For example, having a discussion about Pete Seeger, because I do love Pete Seeger. I do love his songs. He was also a communist, and I think he spread a great message. He was persecuted and censored in the United States, but Russell had a harsh opinion about him, and I remember us having this discussion while he was driving. Uh, I mean, I will what I will do in the next days, weeks, is that I will release videos that I haven't released yet, that I've made with Russell. I haven't released because I wanted to make this, this vlog with like a chronologic story or something with, sort of a film with an order of ideas. So, and I left a lot of videos. I mean, and some videos were like me, for example, Russell cooking in his home and saying some shit, and I went there and filmed the cooking and talk some shit too, this kind of thing. So a lot of like personal things. Russell sang some of his songs one night too, which was that was a high moment. Songs that I've known for 10 years now, Russell's songs. And yeah, and I'll shut up about it now, and I hope you enjoyed. If you don't, I just need to express this, and this is kind of my eulogy. I already sent my condolences to Ludmila, and rest in peace, my friend. This is all I wanted to say. Thank you. So we're going out, and I don't know where we're going, but we are going.
We're going to the Kritorinok and the monument for the liberators of Donbass.
Давай. I don't know if we come back, but we go anyway.
Давай.
Been through all this work, receiving me at your place and hosting me and providing food for me.
It's not work, bro. It's our pleasure. It's certainly our pleasure, man. And
Спасибо
it's
большое.
to become friends with in person, like we were already friends before.
Yes, true. Это правда.
But now to be in person, it's really, of somebody that's a real man, that's a real communist, a real comrade, a man that does what he says, that's willing to give more than he takes. What better company can there be than that?
Это правда.
Это правда.
Okay.
So, here, hold on.